Hi, my name is Maxine Samone. My company's name is A Touch of Venus, and welcome to this video where I'm going to help you to truly understand the essence of Venus. Sorry if you hear a little bit of cars in the background. I have the windows open. Truly understand the essence of Venus and everything it connects to, the depth of Venus, and how to harness this energy, especially your unique Venus placement in your birth chart, to not only improve your relationship with yourself, improve the relationship with the world around you, and draw in, magnetize the abundance that is your birthright, okay? Before we get started, I do want to mention that there's going to be an in-depth free guide that you can find in the description box below that is going to not only cover everything that we talk about in this video today, but it's also going to go into Venus in the individual signs, Venus in all of the astrological houses, so that you can study where your Venus placement is, and then also Venus for each rising sign, meaning it will explain the relationship between your second house and your seventh house, who rules what zodiac sign or zodiacal energy rules each house, and how you can use that to your advantage. So go ahead and grab that free guide below, and then we're going to get into the rest of the video. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, share with a friend that could use this knowledge, and I would appreciate if you support the channel. Thank you. I was really excited to make this video because I started to really find a connection between the frequency of abundance and how there may be some programming that we have that perpetuates compartmentalizing different aspects of our life, when Venus brings it all together, because the frequency of abundance is the frequency of love. And so that's why Venus encompasses love, art, beauty, values. It also touches on universal laws and the balance, the relationship between the masculine and the feminine, as well as wealth and money. Me referring to my notes, I have 3 pages of stuff to go over with you, so we're going to get real in depth. Hopefully you're going to learn a lot and be able to apply this wisdom to your life, or apply this knowledge so that you can actually embody the wisdom through your own experience. That's better said. So we kind of talked about the essence of Venus and energies it deals with: love, wealth, money. It plays into relationships. It's about the union, the relationship that you have within yourself, then the love that you have within yourself. It goes into self-love. It goes into value system as well, and how you align with what you're claiming for your life. It's so deep. It's like I was hesitant to actually start making this video because Venus touches on so many things, because it's connected to the divine feminine. So I have my own personal experience with Venusian energy, and it really started with my self-love journey, which I think that we're forever on, right? I really started to take it more seriously after I had some difficult relationship experiences, and I noticed over time, through contrast, right, through experiencing a lot of the stuff that you don't want to experience, you start to have a stronger desire, which is also connected to Venus, for more pleasurable experiences that align with my true values. Through these rocky relationship experiences, every time there was the experience of the shadow aspects through the relationship, I noticed not only the instability in the relationship be reflected in my abundance and my ability to concentrate on creating and co-creating with the universe, and even in my creative work, I would notice pauses in my abundance, or like just the mirroring there. But also every time there was heartbreak, that's the beautiful thing of heartbreak, and I feel like the invitation to continue to keep your heart open is every time your heart does break, it bursts open a little bit more and a little bit more, and it brings you closer and closer to the relationship that you have within yourself, if you do the integration process, the shadow work after or during your relationships. So relationships are a huge part of how we begin to learn about ourselves, learn about the world around us, and actually have a accurate echo chamber as to what's going on internally by what's being reflected externally. And we can see that because Venus is connected to 2 signs or two zodiac signs, two energies in the astrological wheelhouse. So the first one being Taurus and the second being Venus. Taurus is also the ruler of the second house, which is all about wealth, embodiment, connecting to the body, somatic healing, the throat chakra, using your voice, establishing a frequency, your value system, and being persistent. Some people would say stubborn, but being persistent about that value system. I would say that's the higher expression of using Taurian Venus energy. Venus Taurian energy. And then the second sign is Libra, which is traditionally the ruler of the seventh house, which deals with relationships, contracts, universal law, balance, the legal system. So it can be showing up in like the actual legal system here in the physical, but more so it leans more into agreements and what you choose to agree to, how these two signs interact or two energies interact with one another. Taurus, being the ruler of the throat chakra, is what you agree to and align to with Libra. So whatever you are choosing to give attention to, agreeing to verbally or even on paper, is the relationship that you're going to experience outwardly, if that makes sense. So for instance, this shows up in relationships, like situationships, I think that we can see misalignments when we study situationships because there's underlying undercurrents of agreements that aren't clearly defined, and that's where we start to see instability. We see instability in our emotional world. We see instability then followed in our physical world, right? And like our resources, our time, because we're giving our time and energy to this intimate space, this intimate container that you're sharing with another person. And then your wealth and abundance in all forms start to mirror that instability or lack of clarity. So that's an interesting thing to note. And I feel like if you feel called to make adjustments to for your life, because the relationship that you have with yourself is number one always. I literally have it tattooed right here. Love yourself first. It's taken 30 years for me to start to really understand and embody this. So it's a lifelong journey, okay? But I do think it's worth noting, if you feel called to make adjustments through this, the codes that you're getting here in this video, it's only going to improve your life, okay? I promise. So another way to start to understand these two energies, Taurus and Libra, is by understanding the signs around them as well. So you have your first house and your third house. So your first house is how you define who you are, traditionally ruled by Aries. This is a cardinal energy. This is you catalyzing something. This is you kickstarting something. This is you going towards something that you're passionate about, right? And it also has like this foolish energy in a way that there's no fear. There's no fear attached to Aries. It's like diving in head first. It's also a Mars energy, which is interesting how it interacts with Venus, because Mars and Venus are a pair. This is how you start to develop union, by being clear about what you want and going for what you want. Then you begin to embody by entering into Taurus energy, by speaking your truth, speaking love and life over what you're trying to manifest, who you're trying to be, and only aligning with that thing. So Aries is also connected to the Emperor card in tarot, which is about the divine masculine, about taking action, as we were explaining. And then Taurus is connected to the Empress card, which is the divine counterpart of the Emperor. So the Empress, rather than going out and doing, is more about receiving and being restful in your energy. Is actually connected to the mother energy and creative, fertile type of energy. So a beautiful thing about Empress energy that we can study with the Venus is that once you have your list of I ams with the Aries energy, like I am a tarot reader, I am powerful I am, whatever your affirmations are, okay? You make your list of affirmations and then you ask yourself, how can I embody this energy? What action do I need to take that is going to help me to embody this energy? And that's how you bridge the gap between Aries, or your masculine energy, and your feminine energy. And the beautiful thing about the Empress energy, or Taurus being the stubborn sign, is that you get to practice saying no and practicing your sacred yes and your sacred no. Imagine her sitting on her throne. She's resting on her throne, and people present things to her because she's in the receiving energy. The Empress does not accept everything. So you need to be very clear on your I ams, your affirmations, who you are becoming, what type of action you're catalyzing, and only accepting offers that are in alignment with who you're becoming. And that's how you start to embody the abundance frequency of what you're trying to attract. Taurus is also connected to luxury. And that's because abundance is your birthright. Love is your birthright. Love is something that flows through us and around us at all times. And it's up to us to align to that frequency at all times. And you can say yes to something, or you can, we have free will. So that's where we start to be the co-creator in our universe and tap into that fertility energy by sowing the seeds that are in alignment with our manifestations. And this plays into not only our relationships and who we decide to connect to, but all areas of life, whether it's like we're on a health journey, a self-love journey, we're building a business, and we're going to get into how we can really embody that for our creative endeavors. So after this second house of Venus, we bridge into Mercury energy with the third house that's ruled by Gemini, and that is the communication. That's the start of your echo chamber. That's where you start to interact with only your psyche as well, and reworking your mind, with Mercury being the thinking and communication. So Venus also bridges into the planet of alchemy, which is Mercury. We're not going to be too focused on how it goes all the way through, but I did want to point out the connections between how you bridge the gap using Venusian energy, okay? So now we're moving from Taurus to Libra, and how Venus rules that seventh house. This is a different expression of Venus. It's more about how she shows up in union. And like I said, there's a echo chamber. And what I mean by echo chamber is like literally imagine like hello, hello, and like you hear hello, hello. So whatever frequency that you are aligning with, according to that Taurian energy, that second house, is what is going to be reflected back to you. And it's really interesting when you study astrology, the whole bottom half of the chart, when you have this whole circle, the bottom half is your internal world. And then when we flip over to the seventh house from the sixth house, we go to the top of the chart. And that is where we start to actually see the echo chamber, the mirrored universe that we all exist in. So the seventh house is the beginning of that. And we start to see the most intimate parts of ourselves reflected back to each other through intimate containers like relationships, business contracts, the people that you choose to align with, right? It's because Venus is so connected to the balance that is innate in the world. Imagine the yin yang symbol. We have a little bit of dark, we have a little bit of light. It all just is and exists in perfect harmony, right? So there's neither good nor bad when it comes to Libra energy or how Venus shows up. There's actually a whole story about how Venus traverses into the darkness and also rises again. So this is reflected in our intimate relationships, where no matter how good a relationship is, if you're in a relationship long enough, you will experience each other's shadow aspects. And this is an opportunity, these triggers are an opportunity to heal whatever is coming up, because these are deeply embedded patterns that start to show themselves through your partner, for you to reflect on and heal and show love to. Really, with Venus energy, it's about love, acceptance, the divine feminine being in her power, which is through emotional alchemy, which is showing love to even the darkest parts of ourselves and the darkest parts of our patterns, because the darkest parts of our patterns are our partners, because our partners and our patterns are just a part of us, right? So it's safe to say that the people that you interact with is one of the most important decisions that you can make, right, in life. That's why relationships play such a big part in life. And I also believe that that is why so many people are hesitant to get into relationships after experiencing said shadow aspects of partners and really themselves, because it can be tumultuous and it can be really difficult, especially if both partners are not on the same page when it comes to healing and making progress in the relationship through really taking time to integrate their own lessons and coming back and deciding to be loving and accepting and move forward. Both partners have to be willing to do the work. And so that's where a lot of us, we are sent into each other's lives. We have spiritual contracts, which is also 7th house Libra energy, in order to teach each other different aspects of life and about ourselves, and to develop a stronger relationship of union within the self between the masculine and the feminine. And this is then reflected in the relationship. However, there's a lot of people that don't have the tools, the resources, the capacity, based off of like certain trauma or belief systems, that through free will, because that exists as well, because we have our light, which is our higher self, and then we have our free will, which is our shadow aspects that challenge us and poke and prod to see exactly what we're going to do, what are we going to choose, because we always have choice. And there are some people that choose not to participate and to fall out of alignment. And that is where we have to challenge ourselves to be detached and move with love and gratitude, to actually be able to integrate our own lessons individually and be able to move forward. That is something that a lot of us have a hard time dealing with, or not dealing with, but accepting. And there are even things that we can do to supplement breaking free from karmic contracts. This is where you start to see like karmic relationships that experience like a lot of ups and downs, and it's because there's energetic cords that we are not allowing ourselves to detach from. And there's cord cutting rituals. There's all kinds of things that can help us with calling our power back by accepting responsibility for our part in the relationship and lovingly accepting the lessons, and then keeping ourselves safe between our divine mother, divine father, masculine and feminine sides, to help us rise in consciousness, which is, you know, basically mothering and fathering our inner child, keeping ourselves safe, no matter who decides to stay, who decides to go. When we don't do that process, which I kind of explained it in like 2 minutes, but this is like lifelong work, and this is also something that gets repeated over and over, we start to see the misalignment in other areas of our life. Connecting back to Taurus energy, when we have a hard time with allowing the lessons to be integrated, you have to think about what is our investment, with Taurus being that earth energy, how Venus shows up in the earthly realms, which is our time, money, our most important resources, right? Our energy. And if you're continuing to align, acknowledge, and put your most important resources into a container or echo chamber that is not reflecting back to you the truth, which is also very Libra energy. This is how Venus is exalted in the truth. Then we start to see our resources dwindle as well. We start to feel less radiant, less abundant. Our money may be funny. All the things start to like, it's like a flower that's not getting the proper water, the proper sun, the proper attention that it needs, because it's out of alignment with who you're becoming. So there's always this relationship happening between our physical resources and the containers that we choose to share with the world around us. And we can start to understand more about ourselves by studying our unique Venus placement, what house it's in, and the 2nd and 7th houses by understanding your rising sign, or that first house. It'll lay out the rest of your chart. So these are 3 different ways that we can start to work with Venusian energy and how it shows up in our life and our relationships, and make adjustments so that we can actually tap into the frequency of abundance and truly love ourselves internally and externally. Okay, before we continue, I didn't give the context of the 7th house, where we have our 6th house before that and our 8th house, so we can see the bridges there as well. So obviously, before the 7th house comes the 6th house, which is traditionally ruled by Virgo, the 2nd earth sign in the earth sign sequence of manifesting something here in this physical reality. Virgo is all about the day-to-day, your routines, your work life, and being of service. So how does that bridge into your relationship? So your day-to-day life, now that you're clear, once you start to establish your routine and how you operate, how much time you need alone to integrate, because Virgo is also all about the soul integration, being the hermit in tarot. Once you understand your internal world, that's where we bridge over and get into the upper half of the chart. We move over into the 7th house, and this is where we establish what we're talking about, the echo chamber, right? See even deeper and integrate further lessons by the truths that are revealed to you through your relationships. It's interesting. I think I had mentioned the mythology, but I'm not going to go into a lot of it. So you can look into Aphrodite, Venusian energy, and you can also look at Inanna and her descent into the underworld to better understand Venus and her traversing back and forth between the upper and lower realms. There are a lot of divine feminine stories that talk about this understanding of like the flipping from the, spring into the underworld, or the light aspects of life and then the darker aspects of life, or ourselves. And those are 2 really interesting stories. You can also study Persephone and Hades mythology as well, because she becomes the queen of the underworld as she understands her power by experiencing the contrast of spring, because she's the daughter of spring. So those are some things that you can use for homework if you want to. Once we're in the 7th house and we're experiencing our echo chamber, we're in this relationship, we are full force, really in it, you know what I'm saying? Or even there are reflections where we're not going to go into all the details of this, but if you're not fully in it, you will definitely experience a partner that is also not fully in it. And this is how we start to develop third-party situations, okay? One of the many ways. And these are all reflections of our internal trauma or things that are belief systems, right? So you can even have a third-party situation arise where, because you may not have a strong self-worth or value system within yourself, so then you experience people that also don't value you. And there's a lot of like different ways that the shadow shows up for us to basically integrate lessons through hindsight, through actually going through the experience. Because if we just learn things cerebrally, that's why I said in the beginning of the video, I hope that you take this knowledge and apply it so that you can integrate the wisdom. So that's how the shadow works. It provides you wisdom and power by actually creating the perfect clusterfuck of situations so that you can study the pattern in hindsight, because the shadow is always attached to you. You can't see it. It's always behind you, right? So by actually understanding the patterns of what's going on in your life, you'll start to understand the shadow aspects of yourself. And the quickest way to like drill down on some shadow work is by getting into an intimate container with another person and experiencing your shadow reflected back to you. So that leads us into from 7th house into the 8th house, that bridge into literally the underworld. So as you are experiencing these shadow aspects of yourself, the 8th house is all about power dynamics. It's also about wealth as well, but other people's money, other people's wealth, other people's value system. But a lot of it has to do with breaking through fears, breaking through traumas, going deep into the subconscious, like I said, the underworld, grounding our power by actually taking responsibility for the parts that we play in our relationships and in the world around us. And so this is where we have an opportunity to have an ego death by detaching from the identity that aligned us with said partner or said contract or said whatever echo chamber, and integrating the lesson to ascend and be resurrected. And that's where we go from 8th house to 9th house, where we get into Sagittarius energy. So it just keeps, there's a relationship, there's a conversation happening through the cycles of our life. So I wanted to get into that before we dive into how we can use this Venus energy and this understanding of relationships, containers, shadow work, reflections, the union, the conversation that's happening internally, the relationship that's happening internally between your inner masculine and your inner feminine, and how you want to be loved and how you want to experience love, and how you can keep your heart open to be trusting that no matter what happens outside of yourself, you are safe because you have both aspects of yourself integrated, the masculine and the feminine, and that you can co-create using this internal dialogue and then also having this conversation with the world around you. So I was talking about how Venus is associated with Libra. That has to do with universal laws. There are many different universal laws that you can study, and I would advise, trying to integrate one at a time, because once you open the door for something to be shown to you, there's going to be an opportunity to integrate your understanding through experience to develop that wisdom, right? So one really popular one that I feel like is, there's some misconceptions around it, would be the law of attraction. And this is kind of experienced through this Venusian energy, because there has to be a point of attraction, which also deals with Venus, the magnetism of what you're drawing in, and also your value system that can help you with polarizing what you do not want to align to, right? So we see this with our relationships, and we see people kind of like lose the plot when we have these relationships that keep seeming to be like painful. For instance, like getting into third-party situations like we were discussing, and we're not understanding why do we keep attracting the same type of energy in a different person, same type of energy, a different person. It's like highs and lows, and through these lows, we're supposed to be integrating the lesson. And that is by understanding the point of attraction within you that draws this person in. And by you accepting and aligning with that, by giving it energy, attention, time, money, resources, whatever, aligning with that frequency. And so we can apply that same kind of concept to points of attraction. This point of attraction concept can be applied to our magnetic marketing, to how we create our business, who we decide to go into business with, how we go about our creative endeavors, and really aligning to the abundance frequency that we are desiring. This is how we start to get into the conversation when we get into marketing and things like that, or building your business, of your why, your mission statement, your content pillars, and the information that you decide to put out into the world is basically sending out a magnet frequency and drawing people in, right? So this is how we have to get really clear, or this is why we have to get really clear on what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, and doesn't align with our big mission. And so these are like our foundational blocks, or our first half of that Venus triad that we were talking about, Aries and Taurus, and then leading into Gemini, and how we communicate and share these, express our ideas, and then how we actually start to build our community in our one-on-one interactions and actually connect with people in our day-to-day life by sharing and being of service, right? Between the Virgo, Libra, and then attracting and being in that other people's money energy, or sharing resources and power in Scorpio, right? So it's really interesting how we can start to apply these concepts and understand what we're doing correctly and what can be improved on by just looking at our unique energy, and if we're aligning to it, or if we're kind of going against our natural way of doing things. And this is why when you choose to be an entrepreneur, a creative, an artist, a healer, a spiritualist, whatever your mission is here on this earth, it's so important to pay attention to your personal development journey as you are creating things in the world, because these two things are going to be mirrored as well. Now that we've gone through a foundational understanding of Venus and how it shows up in the birth chart, how it shows up for us in our internal world and our external world, and how it wishes to be used correctly to help us to co-create the life that we want to live and develop self-love, which then just automatically magnetizes you to the abundance frequency that you're truly wishing to experience here in this world. I want to invite you to go ahead and download the full guide that can be found in the description box below. It's going to go into the house rulership and practical applications. It's going to go into the Venus placement in all of the signs and all of the houses, and then also break down for each rising sign how this will actually play out between your second house and seventh house. So all of that can be found in the free guide below. And if you have any questions or want to add to the conversation, I would love for you to go ahead and comment below. I do also have personal readings available. Everything can be found in the description box. And I also have spiritual business coaching, where we dive into the intuitive guidance as well as apply practical, tangible steps to help you build the systems and foundation that you need in your business to help it flourish. So we're going to go ahead and come into union with the masculine aspects of our ideas and putting them into tangible action steps, as well as the feminine, creative, intuitive guidance that you are receiving. Okay, so let me know how you feel about this. I haven't seen anybody talk about the mirrored relationship between money and love, abundance, and how it's the same frequency of love, and really how we can start to not only just appreciate and utilize our Venusian energy, but connect deeper to ourselves and the world around us. So I'll see you later.